Because nowadays, 21st century jobs are not about cramming and rote learning. They're about so much more in terms of emotional intelligence or empathy and stuff like that. So, for these kids, there's a different method which has to be adopted by the teachers so that it sinks in. This connection has to be shown by the teacher for a child to understand.
Hi, welcome to Illuslate, your very own school search engine that helps you find the best schools for your kid based on various filters and parameters. Today, we are very happy to have Ms. Anjali Rasdan, who has got more than 4 decades of experience in the educational landscape with us, and she's currently the advisor on and academic director for Meluha International School, which is near Gachibowli in Hyderabad. She has got experience of working in various schools in various parts of the country, and today we have her to speak to us about the CBSE syllabus, NEP, and IB curriculum, and a lot more concerns that parents are likely to have while joining their kid in a school. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you.
To begin with, can you take us through your journey and also a little bit of Melu so that we can further dwell into the other finer details of our conversation?
Yeah. I basically genetically a Kashmiri, but born and brought up in Mumbai. And that's where I did my schooling and passed out my post graduation in 1979, quite long time back. And I am a biologist by qualification. So after being in Mumbai for almost teaching the undergrads there, I left Mumbai and went to Kolkata for my husband's transfer. So in Kolkata, I drifted my line from hardcore professor of biology to being in administration as principal of various schools. So two schools prominently. One is the Birla schools in Kolkata, and the other is the Singhania school, the JK Tyre schools, which I headed there for almost 19 years. I came to Hyderabad in 2007 and again continued being head of schools for a few more schools. My last school was Obel Reddy Public School, where I retired in 2019 as their principal and senior director. After that, I am into advising, into consulting, into giving academic pushes, thrusts, etc. to all those people who need it. And Meluha is the school where I'm the director of academics. So I'm looking into their academic structure. I'm also looking into the teacher trainings, and I'm looking that they are more futuristic in their approach because of so many things that's coming up in the education circles now. So I'm the academy director there. So that makes me almost 43 years now in the east, west, north, south that I've covered here. And talking about Meluha, it's a wonderful school. What I like best about Meluha International School is that its campus is very, very inviting. It's green. It's huge. It doesn't look like you're in Hyderabad in the congested places. The classrooms are amazingly good. They're air conditioned. I'm not advocating air conditioned classrooms, but then they are. So certain months of the year, you do definitely feel very uncomfortable in the weather. So that's there. It also has fantastic hostels, residential facilities, where kids from different places and they want to do serious studies, especially when it comes to 10th, 11th, and 12th. There's a lot of place where they can be nicely with their friends, and of course, coaching is very much provided for them. But that's the time of the year that the kids have to take a decision in their career. So Melua provides a fantastic environment, a campus which promotes the learning. It has, the lake on one side, and very near to it, there are animals there. There are dogs kept there, the pets. There are hen and cocks and chicken and a little closer to that is a cow shed, which has cows there. So amazing place for ecosystems to be observed by the kids, and they can grow the crops. There are a lot of spaces where they're growing crops and then they're looking at. And many times when they're growing, that same one can be used for them to eat it also. So it's not just academics that the school offers, but it's so much of outside academics that it promotes the children. And the campus is so beautiful because you have airy classrooms. You have a lot of space in between the blocks, different blocks of academic year. So that is something that gives a very positive vibe to anybody who enters it first and they enter it. Right? I think more you'll get to know as you ask me whatever, and I'll answer you all this.
Sure, ma'am. Would love to know more. And ma'am, a lot of parents these days hear this word called NEP in CBSE. For layman, how do you think this NEP is going to change the teaching methodology in CBSE, and how is it going to actually make an impact in the child's learning abilities?
Yeah. So a national education policy, that's what NEP is the short form for. National Education Policy 2020 is a new paradigm shift in the teaching learning system, which is going to happen in India very, very soon. India. It's not about CBSE only. Any board which is under the Indian scenario, the ICSE, the CBSE, the state boards, anyone, it has to follow the national education policy. One of the main features of this, which came after almost 36 years, this big reform came for the reason that we were producing children who were more robotic. They had the soft skills started getting lacking because schools just did nothing but academics, that too rote learning academics. So when these kids grew up, they became misfits in the industries where they have to get jobs. Because nowadays, 21st century jobs are not about cramming and rote learning. They're about so much more in terms of emotional intelligence or empathy and stuff like that. So the government of India came up with this, that there's no more rote learning. We're going to have something called conceptual learning. So the shift, the first and the prime thing in national education policy is the shift from rote learning to conceptual learning. It looks very small in name, but it's a huge paradigm shift because the teachers have to get acquainted with what is the meaning of conceptual learning. How do you put the concept in the child's mind? When the concept is clear, the learning automatically happens, rather than rote learning where the concept is not at all understood. So that's one big thing about a national education policy. To get the teachers understand this, there are a lot of pedagogies, methods of teaching children. And few of them which I can name, and I am a teacher trainer also. I'm a resource person of the CBSE for last almost 20 years. I've trained almost 5,000 teachers under the CBSE. I'm a senior resource person. So to name a few of the pedagogies is something like experiential learning, learning by experience. And every subject can be converted into an experiential format. When we ride a bicycle, when we were kids, we never forget that. Even 20 years later, 30 years later, you ride a bicycle, you never forget. Why? Because that was experiential learning. There's no book that says how to ride a bicycle and you follow that and you ride. No, you have to feel it, handle it, and then that's the way education is going to be now as per the NEP. There's also certain things about critical thinking, collaboration. How do you collaborate with others? How do you have teamwork when you're learning? And that is so effective in today's education. So besides these pedagogical reforms, it also has a lot of stuff in terms of what subjects should we add up more, what can be portions which can be outdated, which can be deleted. So all this is in the national education policy. One important thing about this whole thing is the preschool classes, which are something like lower KG, upper KG, and nursery. These used to happen so far in small preschools, which were mushrooming around in our country, mushrooming at vigorous speed. And none of them knew what the others doing. And parents had their little children and they would send them there because they want to pass time. But what they would do with them there was damaging to the child, making them write at 3 years where their hands are not yet ready for the nerves are very, very tender, and they would make them write with pencils. That was the half knowledge. So now with the national education policy, the preschool is now integrated into the main school. It comes in the purview of the law that governs the main school. The preschool has to come in there if the school has a preschool and stuff like that. So this is the huge, shift from letting anything being happening to being controlled teaching and learning process. And that is going to affect the child ultimately because it has a lot of life skills in it, embedded in it. And with the life skills, the child knows how to talk, how to converse, how to be empathetic. Only academics is not the only thing. So at Melua, we're providing so many things around which not only just teach them, but make them lifelong learners. We don't want them to just learn something by book and then vomit it in the examinations. And then after 1 year, they've forgotten exactly what they learned. It should be something like a bicycle, which they'll never forget, even if it's 30 years later, they will have an experiential, learning. So I guess that is the gist of NEP 2020, which is already started in everywhere, but still we are training the teachers. As I said, I am left, right, and center. as per the CBSE we training, so that they're ready for the takeoff, which will happen from 2025. And every school has to fall in the norms of national education policy in terms of its parameters.
Got
I
it.
hope that answers.
It does, ma'am. And since you brought this teacher training and teachers being ready for the advent of NEP, I'm a little curious to know what sort of virtues do you look at while hiring a teacher or getting a teacher on board in a school? Also, because you've been in leadership positions in various schools, so you must have been in that
See,
position where you interview
one of
teachers.
the most important things that in my opinion, it may not be necessarily everybody's, but my opinions have by and large been successful, because in all the years that I've taken teachers and they proved to be the way I thought they were, is that there has to be some spark of creativity in a person, which you get to know not by their marks or by their exams that they've had or their qualifications, but that spark is something called common sense, which when we recruit people, we touch their common sense element, which is the most important and the most uncommon nowadays, the common sense. So once we find that, okay, this person has common sense, then we go on to the other things of the subject matter. Obviously, they have got good marks and they have passed and whatever else. The empathetic factor is what we're also looking at. Are they empathetic towards students? Do they understand a student psyche nowadays? Because the teachers are of the 20th century. The children are of the 21st century. In fact, we are teaching millennials, which are born after 2000. Anybody who's born after 2000 is a millennial.
Yeah.
And teachers are not born after 2000. That way they'll be 24-year-olds. Some teachers have started getting the very new ones. Otherwise, the millennials are the children, the students, and the non-millennials are their teachers. So the millennials have a different way of looking at things. They have technology at their fingertips. They're born with the flow of technology. The river is flowing, they're born with the current. Whereas the rest of us, we are born, we are going against the current. We're trying to learn, we're trying to understand technology. But these children who are born, and I can say it with good amount of emphasis, a 2-year-old child nowadays, 1-year-old child, give them a mobile in the hand, they will know how to move it and figure it out.
Yeah.
They will. And you give us, 60-year-old people, we will tremble and not know what to do with this. This is the power that these millennials have today. Now, how can we teach these millennials with that kind of a mindset? We teach them the old-fashioned way of, this is the blackboard, this is the chalk, this is my question number 1, and you better, note it down and answer the question number 1. No, they will not learn. Even if you force them, it will not sink in. So for these kids, there's a different method which has to be adopted by the teachers so that it sinks in and it becomes something which doesn't come out. So when we're saying conceptual, when we're saying experiential, that's all. These are all various modes of understanding a subject. And the teacher has to now understand that I can't teach them the way I have been taught. These children have to now learn in a very different way. Matter is the same. Physics has not changed, chemistry has not changed, or maths has not changed. But it's the pedagogy that has changed. How do we get out? Now we have practicals in maths. Practicals in the sense, a math can be taught through an activity. A Pythagoras theorem has to be taught now in an activity format. And a square, but equations have to be taught with boxes, make them as a square and b cube and stuff like that. Science definitely is an activity-based thing, but even math. And one more thing is, of course, which is very important of a national education policy, which is being followed, is interdisciplinary approach. How will one subject be connected to 3 more subjects? This connection has to be shown by the teacher for a child to understand. For example, if we say math, how is it connected to music? It is. Or science with history, of course. And so these interdisciplinary approaches are the heart of the teaching learning process.
Interesting.
So this is very important. Not only NEP advocates this, but this is what is being understood even by the child of today. When there's thunder and lightning, which travels first? What do we hear first? We hear thunder. So then we go on to, okay, so how does it travel? And then we go on to tabla. And then we go on to Carnatic music for that matter. connected. Our dance connects to, our psychology connects to, science or social sciences or stuff like that. This is the interdisciplinary approach, very, very essential in today's teaching learning pattern. And I guess we are aiming at that. Not all the teachers are ready for that. But yes, once if we get a teacher with a little spark, with a little common sense, as we said, and of course, educational qualifications has to be there, then we train them also. Their training is not enough to deal with today's child. So we further train them into all these approaches, which is called cooperative learning, experiential learning. We give them all those inputs, and then they get somewhere close to teaching the child of today.
God. And for those parents who are not very sure whether IB is a good curriculum for their kids or CBSE, what is your piece of advice and how do you think a parent should choose a syllabus for their kid?
Yeah. So IB is an international baccalaureate program promoted by the Swiss board. It is worldwide acknowledged and it's well known now. It is a little costlier because IB is not an Indian board. It's a Swiss board. And so therefore, whatever is being done in the schools, if they're offering IB, the charging has to be more because the schools have to also pay IB to amounts because they're giving them the curriculum. As Indian boards, we cannot independently have IB here. So that's one. Okay, IB versus CBSE or ICSE or any other board. Since it's an international board, it has the pedagogy is very different. So in IB, it is books are there, but the way of teaching is very, very strict. It's different. It cannot be through the modes that we are talking about. But CBSE was what it was. Leave that alone. Now CBSE is going to be with the NEP very close to IB now. I hope I'm getting it very clear. So pedagogy of CBSE is changing to adapt to the international standards. And IB is an international standard of IB is amazing. It is giving a child a lot of things in terms of not only the subjects, but it is also giving them certain things like reflective practices, service rules or whatever is their service to society is part of its curriculum, which is not in CBSE. So in CBSE, you have books and all and subjects and all are there, but it doesn't have something like how do you serve society or how do you reflect on what you're doing, which gives you better things about how do I do next, what went wrong, what went right, and stuff like that. But CBSE is now taking these good practices and putting it as its pedagogical pattern. I hope you understand. So
yes.
CBSE is now saying, okay, we don't have reflective practices as a subject, but we are going to have a pedagogy which will match the reflective practices. We'll make sure that these children reflect on that and, they serve the society by introducing clubs in the schools or those kind of structures, which will more or less compensate for what International Baccalaureate program has. It's a strong one, but it's a compensation. It's not a subject. So, but here in IB, there are subjects. There are subjects which have marks, which have grades, which are tested. But in the CBSE, these will be a pedagogical process. The marks and the grades and all will be given to a subject. And these are processes which make the subject come alive.
Within IB also, there are few other parameters like IBCP, IBDP, and IBMYP.
Yes.
So can you quickly touch upon the basics of what these jargons are all about?
Yeah, so International Baccalaureate Program over the classes has got the PYP, which is primary years program, which is for primary classes. Then MYBP is the middle years program. And then there is the senior years program also, that's the 9th, 10th, 11th, 10th. Now IB has come with something called IBCP. Now I would say not now, but maybe 2 years back, 2 to 3 years back max. IBCP is International Baccalaureate Career Programming or Career Plan, which is only for 11th and 12th. So this is nothing to do with the BP or this IB, PYP or none of the primary years. It's only for 11 and 12, IBCP. So what it does in 11 and 12 is it gives them the career programming. For example, if they want to, from 10th, they go to 11th and then to 12th. In the 11th and 12th, they'll be given subjects which would match their careers. So for example, at Maluha, the CP subjects are One is business administration, which will involve a lot of commerce subjects of business, analytics and accountancy and business studies. And of course, a little bit reflective practice and other things are part of it. Whereas the science part is the artificial intelligence, AI, which has physics and math and chemistry and stuff like that also in it. But there's AI and there is business administration. One is the commerce side, one is the science side. These are such rigorous, subjects offered in IBCP, which where if the child goes anywhere in the world, these subjects will actually put them into any university. They can very, very easily get into the foreign international universities because they even teach them languages, by the way. Compulsory language, foreign language is there in IBC, AI or BA or any subject to take. Languages, a foreign language is a must for them to learn so that when they go anywhere, they'll fit into that system. That is not in CBSE. CBSE has got, of course, straight cut. When you pass the 12th, you can get into entrance examinations, you do IIT, or you want to do medical, or you want to get into huge numbers now. NIIT is there and amazing. There's a huge ocean now which they can pass after the 12th and they can crack the entrance exam.
Interesting. In interest of time, we are having to wind it up for today, but we
Sure.
really would love to speak to you again and dive deeper into
Sure.
the ocean of knowledge that you have regarding schools and education, ma'am. We really look forward to meeting you once again very soon and getting to
If
know
they
a
like
lot more
any
about
queries,
schools.
can always be addressed. We can sort it out for them, not from book point of view, but from real life experience point of view.
Thank you so much for that, ma'am. We'll
Thank you.
definitely reach out to you if you have any questions, ma'am. Thank you very
Most
much for
welcome.
your time. And once again, I really got admired with the vast amount of experience and also knowledge that you have regarding schools and education. Thank you very much for your
My
time.
pleasure. My complete pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.